Yeah, I made it back to Cape Town. There is the beautiful mountain, Devil's Peak and Table Mountain. What a trip and what a series. Yeah.
In this series, I ride the Big Three to commemorate the extraordinary legacy of Thomas Bain, master road builder in South Africa. This is the spectacular Swartberg Pass, the challenging Baviaanskloof, and the beautiful Prince Alfred's Pass. It takes me on a journey of more than 2,200 kilometers from Cape Town all the way to Port Elizabeth and back. Thanks for joining me on this experience and to share the views.
Hello and welcome back to Werner's View. Yeah, if you watched the previous video you will know where I'm pulling away from. I'm just departing here from the beautiful Cape St. Blaise cave in the town of Mossel Bay. So if you want to see how I ended up in Mossel Bay with a glorious ride from Knysna, please go and have a look at the previous video. This all of course forms part of my series of trips that I call Riding the Big Three. Now I'm getting towards the end of the series and I've already ridden the Big Three, but if you've not seen it, I mean of course by riding the Big Three, riding probably or arguably the three most significant roads and passes constructed by master road builder Thomas Bain. So earlier in the series I rode the magnificent Swartberg Pass, and then after that, making a detour to Port Elizabeth, I rode all of the Baviaanskloof, which is a 200-kilometer road constructed by Bain. Yeah, and then the last one was the Prince Alfred's Pass from Uniondale to Knysna. Now all three of those roads and passes are significant in scale and size and are engineering masterpieces. So if you want to see how I rode those three passes, please go and have a look at some of the earlier videos in the series. But I'm now on my way back to Cape Town and I'm departing from the town of Mossel Bay, and I will bring you the trip back to Cape Town in one video. So this is going to be quite a long trip, but of course the closer I get to Cape Town, the more I get to familiar places and familiar roads, because this series took me on the widest detour ever on Werner's View. So I made a turnaround in Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape, but there are still a few interesting places that I'm going to show to you, and I'm not going to do this in a single day. I'm going to stay over tonight with my mother-in-law in Still Bay, so it's not too far to go. I mean, Still Bay is only about 100 kilometers or so from Mossel Bay. But I'm going to make a few detours. I'm not going to take the main roads. You know me by now. I'm going to try and stick to the coast. I've never ridden this road from Mossel Bay to Still Bay by keeping to the coast. And the first stop on this route will be Gouritzmond, which is about 49 kilometers away from Mossel Bay. So yeah, thanks for joining, and I hope you will enjoy this trip. I am starting off again on the famous R102. I will turn off on it in about 1 kilometer or so. Now if you watch the videos where I also departed from Port Elizabeth, I started there already on the R102, which is the old Cape Road, and the R102 certainly was the main road between Port Elizabeth and Cape Town when the N2 was not built yet. And I will just get back onto the R102 shortly and make the turn off to Gouritzmond as my first point of interest, to go and see what it looks like. I've never been to Gouritzmond, but for now let's just enjoy this ride through beautiful Mossel Bay. I must say Mossel Bay is a neat town, quite big but beautiful, and you cannot help but getting that vacation, that summer vacation feeling by riding through the town of Mossel Bay. But just look at this beautiful park, Harry Giddy Park. Yo, this looks like a pleasant place to walk around. I'm of course doing this trip with my trusted Honda CRF 300 Rally. Yeah, I did all my previous series with this Honda. This is just a fantastic bike. This is the 7th series I'm doing with the bike, and by far the most extensive. I will be well beyond 2,000 kilometers on this series of trips by the time I get home, and I can just trust this bike. I mean, it is performing excellently. I did some very rough roads. I mean, the roughest I did was probably going down to Baviaanskloof and the hell there in the Swartberg, and this bike is just keeping on going. Okay, here we are back onto the R102. Let's go. Okay, we are now at the Gouritzmond turnoff, but it is also the turnoff to Bay and Bochums Bay. Okay, so it seems like one can turn off to Bay. We'll get there in 17 kilometers, Gouritzmond 31 kilometers. Let's go. But now I'm even more against the wind than on the N2. It's coming straight from the sea. Yeah. This is indeed the Gouritz river, spelled with a Z at the end. So it must have some Dutch history. Oh, it's a broad river. Beautiful. Now some angling activities here. Oh, there's no barrier for this, so I just have to watch out for the wind blowing over this bridge. Yeah, we have now made it to Gouritzmond. I will just want to see if I can actually get to the sea to see the mouth of the Gouritz river. But I think Gouritzmond, well, it's the first time I'm coming here, but I will just assume that it's also a very popular summer vacation destination. Certainly looks like a very neat town. Yeah. Now Gouritzmond got town status in 1915, so it's not that old. But since 1915, or between 1915 and 1966, efforts were made, or attempts were made, to change the name from Gouritzmond to actually Gouritzmond. So adding that rivier in the middle of the word. But that failed, so since 1966 the town remains known as Gouritzmond. Yeah, it seems like we are getting straight to the sea here. Let's just see what we can see. Yeah, so this is more of a beach area, but Gouritzmond must be there in the distance, not quite visible from here. But I think this whole bay area forms part of the mouth of the Gouritz river. Yeah, but the sea is beautiful here. The color is simply spectacular. Okay, but let's continue. As I said, I'm trying to hug the sea as close as possible, so I now want to continue along the sea to well, I think it's going to be a beautiful lighthouse. It's only about 16 kilometers away, so let's go. Kustweg, so this is the coastal route. That's exactly what I'm looking for, so sounds good. But I hope to get some dirt road, and I think the road will become dirt road now soon. I think we've been too long on tar road. I'm itching for a little bit of dirt road riding. I still have not had enough in this series. But let's add a bit to the adventure. I can indeed see the road is turning to dirt road there in front. It says it's a dead end, so let's see. I am unsure about this route. I hope I don't have to turn around at some point, because I know there's a few private nature reserves along this route, and I certainly don't want to trespass on any private property, so I will keep my eye open. But I am prepared in the back of my mind to have to turn around if necessary. But yeah, I'm exploring this with you to see how far I can go. But this is indeed a wonderful piece of dirt road to just ride almost on the beach. Yo, how beautiful is this? Well, the lighthouse, according to Google Maps, is still 14 kilometers away, so I hope there's another gate or something soon, otherwise I will not be able to view it. Yeah, but the rock formations along this piece of coast is simply spectacular. Yo. Oh, a large house, I'm not sure. Oh, maybe it's an hotel or something. Oh, it's a lodge and wedding venue. Okay. Oh, what a beautiful location. Yeah, it's not often that one can, for such a long stretch, just ride, yeah, with ease next to the sea. And just, yeah, enjoy this natural beauty. Yeah. Now this road, even if I have to turn around, is certainly worth it. And indeed, I think I now reached a gate. So this is now the turnaround point. Yeah, so the one thing that I'm a bit disappointed about is that I cannot go to the lighthouse. I can see it there in the distance. It's called the Ystervarkpunt lighthouse. What is interesting about it is it's got a spiral red and white pattern on it. I was looking forward to seeing it. It is not an historic lighthouse. I think the first lighthouse on that site was just a steel structure, and it was built in 1964. This one was only built in 2006, so it's quite a modern lighthouse. But I will have to return to Gouritzmond, and so backing up on myself a bit, and then I will have to find another route to Mossel Bay. No problem. Yeah, of course, riding in this direction means I'm riding with the wind, so this is so much more relaxing. But yeah, it was great to be able to see this coastline twice in both directions. And the weather is just so perfect in terms of sunshine, not a cloud in the sky. Yeah, no, I'm enjoying this. So even now going back, it's not so far to go to Still Bay, 57 kilometers. So I'm now back in the town of Gouritzmond. But I will keep on sticking to the back roads. I will not be returning to the N2. Yeah, indeed, we are still 40 kilometers away from Still Bay and we are hitting the dirt road. How great is this? The adventure and enjoyment level is now just gonna multiply. Yeah, I think this will remain a dirt road for most of the road now. This may very well be the last dirt roads of the series, because tomorrow when I leave from Still Bay to Cape Town, it will all be on tar. Yeah, we have now reached the end of the dirt road. I think this is it. The dirt roads for riding the Big 3 series is gone. But how enjoyable it was. Yeah. We are now very close to Still Bay, only about, I think, 8 kilometers or so. So this road from Gouritzmond will now link up with the R305, which is the main road going into Still Bay. Yeah, what an exciting road this was. I really enjoyed it. In some stretches you got beautiful views on the sea, although the road itself is not so close to the sea. Yeah, so the Gouritz River splits Still Bay into two parts, Still Bay East and Still Bay West. So we are now on the eastern side, so the only connection between Still Bay East and Still Bay West is that bridge. The bulk of Still Bay is actually on the western side, and there are fewer houses on the eastern side. But welcome to Still Bay. This is my destination for tonight. Still Bay has many interesting and beautiful things to see and to do, but maybe let's start with the ancient history. So the Blombos Cave is situated about 12 kilometers away from Still Bay, and that is apparently one of the very first places where humans, well, resided in a cave. The remnants goes back a long way, and so there's a lot of important archaeological studies that's being done in the Blombos Cave. And here in Still Bay you can go and view this by going to the Palengat. There's a place there where you can go and look at eels in their natural environment at Palengat. Of course, a eel in Afrikaans is paling. Yeah, but just look how beautiful this Gouritz River is. So at the Palengat there's a beautiful little museum that's also commemorating and displaying all the important archaeological findings here in Still Bay. So, but there's also other ancient history. The fish traps or the fish favors. There's ancient fish traps that the Khoi people built, and some of them goes back 2,000 years, and they are clearly visible if you go and view them or visit them. But yeah, I'm just remaining now here on the eastern side of Still Bay. You can see the lagoon is now relatively full, so with high tide it pushes up. Good morning. I'm departing here from Mossel Bay early in the morning. It is now 7 o'clock. And I'm starting here from the beautiful Houwhoek river, which is now much more empty than when I arrived yesterday. So this is Mossel Bay, and I'm continuing my trip that already started, of course, yesterday from Mossel Bay. And today I will take you all the way to Cape Town. There was a bit of rain last night, and there's a little bit of a chill in the air, but I think it's going to be a good day for riding. I don't really expect rain, but I've said it a few times on this series, I don't expect rain, and then the rain comes. So I do have my rain jacket on, but more for the little bit of chill in the air. This is the Houwhoek river. The beautiful, beautiful river that makes Mossel Bay such a popular summer vacation holiday, with this lagoon towards the sea. Thanks for joining, of course, and I hope you'll enjoy this trip with me. Let you pick up some speed. Come Honda CRF 300 Rally, after 2,000 kilometers you are still going strong, and you will take me home safely. I have no doubt about it. Okay, let's link up with the N2 highway and find our direction, Cape Town. We made it now to the beautiful town of Riversdale, here on the foot of the Langeberge. You cannot see the mountain really today, but of course the Langeberge stretches all the way alongside the N2 from here. I just want to make a quick stop at a particular building in Riversdale that I want to see. Maybe just a bit of history. So the town of Riversdale was established on 30 August 1838, and it is named after Harry Rivers, who was the civil commissioner of the Cape at that time. So one can expect a few old buildings since 1838 to be found here in Riversdale. But there's one particular building, I think, which I just want to go and see, because I think it is quite extraordinary. And this is the St. Matthew's Anglican Church. You're just crossing the railway here. That is Riversdale Station. And the St. Matthew's Anglican Church is now just 300 meters down the road. So let's have a look. Here it is in front of us. What a beautiful church. Sure. Let me just make a turn here to see whether we can just see it from the front. Now, what an extraordinary building. So this is the St. Matthew's Anglican Church. So this was built between 1854 and 1856 by Bishop Gray. And what is interesting is that apparently the design of this church was done by a lady called Sophie Gray. Now, I don't know whether she was related to the bishop, but the Greys played an important part in establishing this church. 1856. How extraordinary. Built from stone, different sized stones all the way. What meticulous work. So typically Riversdale is a town which you sped past, or at least just drive through on the N2 highway, but I think there are beautiful things to see. So next time you come through, at least go and have a look at the St. Matthew's Anglican Church. What a beautiful, extraordinary building. I think it's wonderful for Riversdale to have such rich history. Okay, so the next stop on the road is the town of Heidelberg or Heidelberg, which is only about 30 kilometers away. Now there is something extraordinary that I've never seen, but I've researched a bit and I find it fascinating, the place that we will see next. But let me talk about it once we get there. We made it now to the town of Heidelberg. So let's just make a turn here off the N2. Yeah, what a beautiful setting. Of course, this is now Heidelberg in the Western Cape province, not to be confused of course with another Heidelberg in South Africa, which is based in Gauteng. This one almost certainly has an older history. And here you need to cross the Duivenhoeks River to get into the main street of Heidelberg or Heidelberg. Now the reason why I want to come to Heidelberg is because this takes us back another leap in history. I mean, a leap back in history, because this town has got some very, very old history. And the first place I want to go to is to the house of Lowry. Now, Lowry was a farmer which had a farm here called Doornboom, and he built the farmhouse already in 1728. Now that is very long ago, but the extraordinary thing is that house, as built, still exists today in the town of Heidelberg, because it was on this farm, Doornboom, that the town of Heidelberg was established. And we're actually going to make a turn into Fourie Street now. So we're making a turn here at the church. Oh, look at this beautiful church building. So the Dutch Reformed Church was already established in 1855 here in Heidelberg, but this church dates from 1913. How beautiful. Sure. So the church was established after a piece of land was bought from the farm Doornboom. But the house of Lowry is just here in front. Now I like to follow the old history in South Africa of the people that settled here, and this is really taking it back quite a bit. So it's known as the Doornboom Opstal, and here it is. Sure, how extraordinary. Built in 1728. Now this certainly warrants a closer look. Sure, so if you want to experience some really old history in South Africa, come to the town of Heidelberg. I mean, to me, this is extraordinary to have the original farmhouse just, standing here as it was built in 1728. But to think about that, today is 2025, so this is just 3 years short of 300 years old. So this is known as the Doornboom Opstal. It's a thatch roof house, as you would expect from that time, but just look how small the windows are. And it's got a beautiful garden. So I don't know what it is used for today, but it seems like there's some tables and so on outside. So maybe one can enjoy even
some tea also here. There's just some people that arrived, so maybe I can just have a quick look inside. Yeah, so I actually have an extraordinary opportunity to see this house on the inside. So I just spoke to the people here. They are preparing for a 70th birthday, and this is a venue that you can rent out if you want to have functions. But just look at the inside, because this must have been the old kitchen. Look at the big fireplace. Yeah. Yeah, the Lowry Doornboom Opstal. Here they have prepared already for this venue. What a building, what a building. If you want to see a special place in Heidelberg, come to the Doornboom Opstal. It will take you back far in history. But yeah, let's continue.
Okay, let's find our way back to the N2 to continue the journey to Cape Town. Well, I have not originally planned this, but I'm going to make a turn off into the extraordinary town of Swellendam. Now, Swellendam has of course featured before on Vander's View channel as part of my Kleinkuru series, when I made that beautiful ride from Riverdale through the Riverdale Pass, Swartberg and Swellendam. But yeah, Swellendam has an extraordinary history. As I said, I couldn't resist because this is probably the most beautiful town along the southern foothills of the Langeberge. You can see the Langeberge in front. Unfortunately, the cloud is covering the top, but how beautiful. And the whole town of Swellendam is lying here in front of us. Now, Swellendam was established and named after Hendrik Swellengrebel, what a name, in 1743, although this board says 1745, so certainly in the 1740s. And yeah, for places established and named in the 1700s, it will all have a Dutch connotation, because that was when the Dutch ruled South Africa. Just look here on the right hand side. This is the old Drossday, or the oude Drossday. This is some of the oldest buildings in Swellendam. Definitely built since the mid 1700s and changed and expanded many times. Yeah, so Hendrik Swellengrebel is the person this is named after, and also the airport is then the Swellengrebel airport here outside of Swellendam. Just about the naming of places I mentioned before, of course in the 1700s the Dutch ruled the colony of South Africa and the Cape, so the governors at the Cape and so on were all Dutch. But then in 1806 the English defeated the Dutch and took over Swellendam, and that's why the naming of things in the 1800s tend to be more British related. And in the age of Queen Victoria, many things are named after her. But yeah, the reason why I'm taking this ride is just to have another look at this Dutch Reformed Mother Church in Swellendam. It is here hidden behind the tree. This is an absolute masterpiece. Apparently this is one of the most photographed buildings in South Africa. Just make a stop here, I just need to look at it. Yeah, as I said, I have featured it before, but I must have a look again. Just look at it. So this church was built in 1911, apparently after the previous one, and it burned down or had to be demolished. And it can seat 2,000 people, and it is open because it is a Sunday morning. But what is extraordinary about the tower is that it is apparently a replica of the church or the cathedral tower in the town of Maun, in Belgium. Beautiful. It's a combination of three building styles: Baroque, Gothic and Cape Dutch. So it's just a beautiful architectural combination. Maybe just to mention that Swellendam, of course, is the third oldest town in South Africa after Cape Town and Stellenbosch. So that is why it's got this extraordinary historic significance. Okay, next stop will be the town of Riviersonderend, and I think that is where I will look for a snack to eat and maybe look for some coffee. Welcome to the town of Riviersonderend. Here on the foothills of the Riviersonderend mountains. Got a beautiful, beautiful setting. Yeah, so different to Heidelberg and Swellendam and so on. Riviersonderend is actually quite a young town. It was only established in 1923. And Riviersonderend refers to the fact that the town is situated here in a loop of the Sonderend river, and Riviersonderend of course simply means river without end. What I find interesting is the original Khoi name for this area is Kanakamkana, and it's got the same meaning as Riviersonderend. Isn't it a beautiful name? Kanakamkana. They should have named this town Kanakamkana. Yeah, so you would not expect to find old and historic buildings here, seeing that it is a relatively new town, but there's one thing that the town is famous for, and that is the oatmeal bakery. And I'm just mentioning it because if you watch the series, there is the church of Riviersonderend, so it's also a more modern church. I'm just mentioning it because if you watch the first episode of this series, you will know that I made a stop there at the oatmeal in Rawsonville, but this is the original one, the first one, and it is a fantastic place to stop because they are so famous for their pies, and of course you can get great coffee there. I thought initially I'm gonna make a stop for coffee, but I think I'm only gonna have, I remember I bought some chocolate milk in Nyasa, so I think I'm just gonna make a stop here at the back of Old Mill and then have my chocolate milk and some goodies that mother-in-law has packed for me. Chocolate milk I bought in Nyasa, which I actually wanted to drink on the road yesterday already, but I forgot a bit about it, so I'm so glad I have it now. This is going to be a very nice snack. Thanks, mother-in-law, for the lovely biltong, boerewors and apricot jam sandwiches. That was absolutely fantastic. If you watched previous trips, you will know that I had this kind of snack on previous trips as well, but it's the first time on this series and this is after 2,000 kilometers. Yeah, just look at the beautiful Riviersonderend mountains there in the distance. Now this is simply spectacular. We have made it now to the town of Caledon, just here where the N2 passes the town of Caledon. Now Caledon, it has a significantly older history than Riviersonderend. I'm not going to turn in, I'm just taking a slow ride by. So Caledon was not always known as Caledon. It was longer ago in the past called Bad achter die berg, or Bad achter de berg, a Dutch name, and it simply means bath behind the mountain, because there were baths built here in 1797, but then when the English came, the name was changed and the town of Caledon was established on 31 December 1813, named after Dupré Alexander, who was the second Earl of Caledon, and he was also the first British governor of the Cape in 1806 to 1811. So yeah, the British took over the management and the Cape Colony from the Dutch in 1806. But now we're going to make our way across this plain to the Houwhoek mountains. Now you will remember in the Cape Valley series I also rode through the Houwhoek mountains. When I got a bit lost I rode down the Houwhoek Pass, and today we're going to do it again, but this time riding it up. That is surely going to be a beautiful ride. Yeah, from here one can see across the whole Bot River Valley, and it's of course the Bot River that melts into the sea there in that lagoon. Beautiful. Yeah, this is the hairpin bend in the Houwhoek Pass. This is of course today it is a double lane highway, the Houwhoek Pass. The other part that's coming down is there at the top, and we are now climbing up the Houwhoek mountains, and this will allow us another look back at the Bot River estuary. Yeah, you can just about see it there towards the sea. Now the Houwhoek Pass was built already in 1833, and initially the middle section of this pass was called Coles Pass. I want to make a correction, because in the previous series I said the Coles Pass section was named after Sir Lowry Coles, and I mistakenly said he was the builder of the pass. Of course he was not. He was the governor at the Cape in that period of 1833 when this pass was built. And so, but the middle section was initially called Coles Pass, and today it is known as Houwhoek. And Houwhoek refers to the Dutch hold back in the corners, and that was still in the days of Oxwagon when people took this pass. Now Sir Lowry Coles is also the person after which the St. Lowry's Pass is named, and this Houwhoek Pass was built shortly after the St. Lowry's Pass was built. So we will ride the St. Lowry's Pass also today, and that is properly carrying his name. So we are summiting the Houwhoek Pass here at about 340 meters, so it's not a very high altitude, but yeah, this is beautiful. Yeah, and of course downhill to the famous Houwhoek Farm Stall. I will make a stop at Houwhoek Farm Stall simply for a leg stretch. Of course it was back at Riversdale when I last just stepped off the bike a bit. But we are making very good progress. I'm now only 77 kilometers from home. So yeah, if you don't get parking right in front of the store or the padstal, there's also some lovely shaded spots here. So if you've got dogs, this is the place to stop with dogs. Yeah, so this is the upper Steenbras. You can see it is quite full, but it extends to that side with the dam wall on the other side. And this is of course a very important dam for your hydroelectricity generation. So when Cape Town has load shedding, it is spared a phase by the electricity generated from this dam. So the St. Lowry's Pass connects the Elgin Valley from this side to the town of Somerset West on the other side of this part of the Holland Mountains. Yeah, but it's a beautiful view over the Swartberg Dam from here. Yeah, this is the summit of Sir Lowry Pass at 450 meters. Yeah, and this brings us to Cape Town, but first Somerset West. Maybe just to mention that this part of the St. Lowry Pass that we are riding now is built by reinforced concrete, and it was built as recent as 1984 to widen this part of the St. Lowry Pass to a 4-lane highway, and there's also a railway track running along this side. So this is a very strategic crossing of the Holland Mountain, both for cars and train. Yeah, maybe just a bit of history of the St. Lowry Pass. So originally this pass was built between 1828 and 1830, so a very long time ago. And it was built by George Mitchell, and it is, as I mentioned, named after Sir Lowry Cole. And this pass has seen many reconstructions and widening. So both in 1930 it was widened, and it was also tarred already in 1930, and then it was further widened in 1956. And then, yes, that upper part, you can see it from here, was constructed in 1984. It was widened with reinforced concrete to ensure that this whole pass is a double-lane highway. Now, St. Lowry Pass is an extremely important pass, in the same importance as the Huguenot Tunnel for the N1, as this is one of the two main arteries or roads that connects Cape Town to the rest of South Africa. Yeah, they're just trying to contain this fire. It seems like we are past it. Yeah, I made it back to Cape Town. There is the beautiful mountain, Devil's Peak and Table Mountain. What a trip and what a series. Yeah, I think now is maybe a good time to just reflect a bit on where I've been. Yeah, about 8 days ago I started here from Cape Town. I took the N1 National Road, rode all the way to Prince Albert, where I stayed the first night, and then of course the next day I did the first of the big 3 rides, the Swartberg Pass. Of course took the beautiful detour to Baviaanskloof and the hell. What a road that was. And the next day, well, the same day, continuing riding out of the Baviaanskloof, completing the Swartberg Pass, and then a quick pop in at the Congo Caves, and then stayed over in the beautiful town of Gouritz. Following day through Meiringspoort, which is also of course built by the Bains, Andrew Bain and Thomas Bain, and then rode the beautiful dirt roads from Klaarstroom to Willowmore, and then the iconic cement road to Stateville. But of course I made a bit of a detour through the Groot Rivier Mountains to Kliplaat, and had to face a hailstorm between Kliplaat and Mount Stewart. But I did find my way to Stateville for a great stay there at the Royal Hotel in Stateville. And then finally I made it to Port Elizabeth the following day, riding some beautiful dirt roads, and then via Uitenhage and Dispatch, making it to Port Elizabeth and staying 2 very good nights with my sister Madeleine in Port Elizabeth. Of course then the return journey started, and I did the second of the big 3 rides, the magnificent Baviaanskloof. Of course before you get to Baviaanskloof you ride through the Gamtoos Valley. But the Baviaanskloof, 200-meter road that Thomas Bain built with all kinds of variations. And yeah, made it through successfully. I was worried about water crossings, but I made it through and stayed the night at Uitspan Guest Farm. Of course then I took the roads from Baviaanskloof to Uniondale to catch up with the the Prince Alfred's Pass, the third of the big three rides, the pass at Thomas Bain Belt. That is the longest publicly accessible pass in South Africa, and that was a great ride. Ending up in Knysna, and yeah, then following the roads through the Knysna forest, through towns like Riverdale and Karatara, ending up in wilderness, riding on towards places like Hartenbos, Mossel Bay, and then via Gouritsmond to Still Bay, and then starting of course this morning in Still Bay, and yeah, popping in for some history in some of the towns along the way of the N2, to ride back from Still Bay all the way to Cape Town. Yeah, I'm really happy to be back. Thank you very much for joining me on this series. I really enjoyed it. I hope you will enjoy watching the videos, and please share in your comments what you think. I don't know where I'm going next. I will still have to think and plan this, but for now I'm simply looking forward getting back home, seeing Annelie again after 8 days, and the kids, catching up with the dogs. Frikkie is also, I've been missing Frikkie a bit. So yeah, I'm going to end the video here. I'm safely back in Cape Town. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. And then until the next series and the next trips, keep well and bye bye.